this is more what I'm going for sonically, but this isn't perfect either. I want the sound of the idea of us trickling in. I want, Jess is putting makeup on me right now. We're not quite ready to start the show, but we're here and we're intimately talking to the people who have gathered as we're trickling in. This is a little loud. It's less haunting than last week's sound. Unfortunately, this is a bummer, but Stugotz and Billy aren't here today because they just crushed it in Arizona. God bless football. Barkley showed up. It was a giant party. It was great fun. But they're flying back. That's the bad news. The good news is Greg Cody is here. He is ready. He is clean. He looks better and healthier than I have seen him look in about 10 years.
Wow.
He looks ready at the start of a work week, and I feel like he could do a straight 4 live-hour show because there's so much to talk about.
Yeah, there really is. I could. I don't want to steal your thunder, though, so.
We're going to go straight. We're going to go as hard as we can into Greg Cody's wheelhouse today because there's so much to talk about. Not the least of which is Inter Miami, because I know you and Mike are going to have thoughts on that. Izzy's around here somewhere. Jeremy's on strike outside. Tony's in Coconut Grove. And
we're all over the place.
And Jessica and Lucy can't stop talking about that Auburn plane fight. But I want to know what you would start with today. If you were starting the show, what would you start with in football? If I only gave you, not just football in general, but I tell you got to, what's the story today?
I don't know that it's that unequivocal, right? Like.
But if I asked you to pick because you were hosting a show on a Monday and you were starting a show,
hypothetically,
if I'm asking you how you would start the show today with a national and international audience, and I tell you it can't just be football in general. Isn't football great?
Right. Okay, if it's an international audience, I'm going to go with Messi and Inter Miami. I'm going to go with football with a U.
It's our audience.
Yeah.
It's our audience.
I think Messi losing in the first round, and it's that as much as Inter Miami losing in the first round, is a huge story in American soccer and American sports.
So you would open with football.
Football.
The real football
Yes.
is what you would open with.
Yeah, the international sport.
All right.
The true international sport.
Chris Cody, if I tell you one story from yesterday, one football story from yesterday, what would you be leading with?
I mean, Lions-Texans was fun.
So last thing you saw.
I mean, that was the best football game.
I don't think it was. There was a lot of good football played this weekend and a lot of close football, like an amazing amount of close football. Mike, what would you start with?
From Sunday.
Well, no.
Well, you said from yesterday.
Well, you can go ahead. You can choose whatever you want, actually. If you start with Miami football.
I was going to go with Pitt's devastating and embarrassing home loss to the Virginia Cavaliers.
That call on the 4th down, what did you think of that?
A lot of crazy calls. I don't know if you saw Utah's athletic director, but he's unhinged.
I did see that. But I thought the Virginia Pitt thing was slightly worse because the explanation from the refs was just sort of
I had
a
it on
non-statement.
mute. I had it on mute, but just from where I was sitting, bad loss. Can't lose those games.
The Utah athletic director thing is not something I've seen before. A post-game press conference where all of a sudden
embarrassing, bad luck.
The AD appears and says things that you never see a coach say. Can we play that sound, please, even though we're not technically on air yet and we're just trickling in? Can we play the sound of the Utah AD? And incidentally, I don't know how BYU won that football game. Like Utah just stopped scoring in the second half, and
the athletic director has an idea.
All right, let's play that sound.
For 12 years, this game was absolutely stolen from us. We were excited about being in the Big 12, but tonight I am not. We won this game. Someone else stole it from us.
Oh, please.
Very disappointed. I will talk to the commissioner. This was not fair to our team. I'm disgusted by the professionalism of the officiating crew tonight.
One of the greatest things in all of sports that I always want with my sports is something that ends with, I will talk to the commissioner.
This is very like mom goes to Starbucks, has a bad experience, and then writes it on Facebook. Like the exact same vibe.
You guys seen an athletic director do this before? In the heat of a Saturday, not like the next day or a press conference where there's a national scandal. Right after the game, hey, everyone in the country, you're going to know this athletic director's voice and face that you never thought of before because he's going to be out here saying things you haven't heard before if they just stole the game from us.
It just seemed outsized. Correct me if I'm wrong, Lucy, but they're new to this conference. And, yeah, I watched some of the game, again, not with sound on. It looked like they had reason to be upset about a couple of calls. I think in a vacuum, if you see the holding call that everyone was a little mad at, it wasn't so bad. Like, you can understand why they made that call. It just seemed like a really outsized reaction from the AD, which led me to believe that maybe he's doing this with purpose in a new conference.
BYU had to drive like 55 yards down the field after that. So it's kind of one of those things where I'm like, don't put yourself in a position where the refs are, controlling the outcome of the game, but like, get a stop.
I know, but don't put yourself in the position where the refs are controlling the games. All of these games are being decided by nothing. Like all the games we're watching on Saturdays and Sundays it's not all Alabama LSU. There's two things that change a call, and now everyone's throwing shit on the field. Now, because that's the popular thing, because the calls are hugely important because everyone's closer than they've been. Go ahead and name all the college football teams that aren't flawed.
Not this year. I won't do that.
FSU.
They're perfect.
Stop that. Stop that. Stop that. I hear him chat from the noise. Move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the walking. Just too sharp with the prize. White girls let it tell me I'm awesome, yeah. Hot like fire on the pan. If you wanna touch my please use caution. Cold like 0 degrees. I'm out the cage, gotta let out the beast. Revolutionary, gotta let out the streets. Locked in a cage, I'ma let out the sheets. We came for one man, forget my peace. You take the west, I'll take on the east. I'ma put him in the cage, never let out the. I hear him chat to the noise. Move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the boys. Not so tough, but minds keep walking, yeah. Just too sharp with the prize. White girls, let it tell me I'm awesome, yeah. Hot like fire on the pan. If you wanna touch my please use caution. Stop that. Stop that. Stop that.
I'm frustrated and I'm sorry. There's too much going on. I don't know where to start the show. I don't know where to place sunlight in the eyes of the Cowboys. In the Cowboys, Babe Laufenberg gave a stat that I couldn't believe. And I love that name, Babe Laufenberg. Do any of you know or remember Babe Laufenberg? If Valerie and I had a pig, we would call it Babe Laufenberg. That would be its name. Babe Laufenberg reports that the Cowboys have now trailed by 20 plus at home in 5 straight games. It's never happened before. And that's like the 40th best story of the weekend in sports. I've got so many stats for you guys, and I don't know where to start the show, but I feel like I should start it with Jessica because she's ready to declare the Chiefs officially annoying. And they win yesterday and had no business winning that football game. There's a pass. We analyze this sport so much. Mahomes drops back to pass and he floats it out to his running back, doesn't see that Zach Allen is standing there, number 99, and just throws it right at his face mask in the red zone, and it hits him in the hands. And Zach Allen will remember that the rest of his life. He will never have an easier interception. Give me all his stats, Chris. Zach Allen's stats on how often he gets to hold the football. And it's an interception, and it should be an interception. But it's not an interception, and the Chiefs win their 15th game in a row in that sport where all the games are close. And look at this stat here, because this is crazy. Mahomes down 10 plus in the second half has a better career winning percentage than quarterbacks named Phillip Rivers, Eli Manning, Dan Fouts, Kirk Cousins, Matt Ryan. That's Mahomes' winning percentage down 10 in the second half is better than the winning percentage of all those quarterbacks. They can't be beaten.
Annoying. They're just annoying, Dan. They're so annoying. I found myself thinking in my head yesterday as the Broncos were lining up to kick the game-winning field goal. Well, I'm really happy for Sean Payton.
Wow,
What?
That's going some.
What? Why?
Yeah.
Why?
Not a likable guy, Sean Payton.
I, on the way in today, driving in, heard a radio station announcing Denver's found its franchise quarterback, Bo Nix.
He's been great.
I'm just like, okay, that caught up to me quickly. The difference between game 1 and game 10 for him seems to have been a big difference. Denver is better than all of us thought, and now Jessica's rooting for Denver because Kansas City has gotten to a level of, oh, they shouldn't have won that game. That blocked field goal, that's nonsense at the end of that game. Can you guys play for me the Kevin Harlan sound? Because Kevin Harlan had a great call. And just the sound. Listen to the sound. Kevin Harlan is speaking for America here with the first guttural sound that is unleashed from somewhere in his nether region.
Kick to win it. Oh! Blocked! The Chiefs have won! The Chiefs have won!
He laid out for like a full 12 seconds after that and just a loud crowd noise as Mahomes runs all over the field knowing he didn't deserve to win that game.
So annoying!
And reacting as if he just won the Super Bowl.
It gets really frustrating when a team that has won as much as they have, even though he's not having the best year for himself, clearly the best quarterback, maybe arguably ever. And for them to have the luck on top of that, it gets pretty deflating if you're actively rooting against them.
The stat I gave, excuse me, Greg, I should give it to Josh Dubow at the Associated Press. It is not my stat. On Mahomes down 10-plus in the second half, it has a better career winning percentage than quarterbacks that you can argue are Hall of Fame worthy or close to Hall of Fame worthy.
Yeah, he was outplayed by Bo Nix, and it's not the first time he's been outplayed by a so-called lesser quarterback. He's having an average season. When you look at the stats, under almost any metric, he's been routine. He's been average this year. And what's going to kill me, and I predict it's going to happen, he will make the Pro Bowl purely by habit. Purely by habit, just like a good left tackle.
That's going to kill you? That's going to kill
really
you.
disappoint me.
Put it out there.
He should not make the Pro Bowl.
Tile graphic.
It's going to kill you. Put it on. Go
Tile
ahead.
graphic.
Go. Let's
Absolutely.
Okay.
He's going to make the Pro Bowl, and it's going to kill me.
Yeah. All right, here's the thing. I did not say that literally will kill me. I didn't say literally.
But it's just weird that you would care that much about it. No. But,
We'll add that
No,
context.
I care.
I parenthetically, I didn't mean literally.
Right, yeah, exactly.
You just going out there with a very bold topic that Patrick Mahomes is going to be in the Pro Bowl.
He will make the Pro Bowl purely out of habit. That's what happens in
That's
the
the type
NFL.
of opinions you're not hearing anywhere else.
Exactly. Thank you.
And it will kill you. I don't know what is happening with the following. And I'm not sure we should start with the Chiefs, although I think Jessica's right. They are now officially annoying.
It's weird that I still want to talk Bengals-Ravens.
Yeah, no.
That game was that good that I don't want to pretend Saturday and Sunday happened.
Well, Mike, I mean, all your MVPs in the league yesterday, fart sound, all of them. Jared Goff, 5 interceptions, all of them, except for the guy who played on Thursday night. Except for Lamar Jackson. All your MVPs, get them out of here. Josh Allen, all of them. They were all sloppy yesterday.
I'm going to hemorrhage this NFL season because after every loss, I just like a fiery furnace. Just keep throwing cash at the Rams and Niners and Bengals. I don't care if you keep losing. I'm going to keep trusting you because you're this close. The good luck that the Chiefs have had this season, and sometimes this is met directly, is only followed by the bad luck the Bengals have seemed to have had this season. And I want to believe in them so bad, and I assume at some point this season, perhaps it's too late, but I assume they're going to ascend to the mean when it comes to some of this stuff.
I need you guys' help in a lot of different places. Lucy, how is that apple?
Pretty good. Thanks for asking.
Is it Honeycrisp?
I don't
It's
feel,
delicious.
Lucy, you have offered me anything in the way of help in how it is I should start today's show because you have a strong opinion. Mike went the Pitt game.
I'm hungry. I ate an apple. There were 4 other people here.
An apple a day.
I know. Thank you, Chris. But you're not answering my question. And I don't also know. Jeremy, I am told, is striking. I don't know. Do we have video proof of this? Is Jeremy is striking? Is he striking on Lucy's behalf? Because I don't know the nature of Jeremy's strike. I really yelled at him on Friday in front of everybody because he was just trying to hide a vulnerability that the entire group would have enjoyed poking fun at,
I'm really upset that you decided to do that when I was off.
I wish you had seen everything that happened here because he was trying to gosh, this is frustrating. Jeremy was typing and trying to cheat the answer to a question, trying to translate choque de gigantes, because he'd done a read so poorly and so gringo and so offensive to any Latin heritage that he has, and that we immediately seized on it, started asking him if he had known what he read, what it meant, and he just tried to hide it and cheat and talk over me. And then in the middle of it, we started talking about Lucy and young people, and he deflected, and now he's on strike.
What does it mean?
I'm being told he's going to be on strike shortly. He's getting in position.
Okay, so he's late. That's good.
He's having a manicure first.
All right, good. He's late arriving to his own strike. All right, I'll check in when I can. Not to inconvenience the young entitled people around here.
It's a holiday.
Well, it's not
that
though.
traffic holiday.
Wait a minute. Is it a holiday?
Oh,
It
hell
is.
yeah.
It's a holiday.
Yes.
It's not a company one.
My daughter's off from school, and the public commuting situation was
glorious.
a pleasure.
I sailed to the studio this morning. Sailed. My car was sailing. I had a big thing. What's
Go
that
on.
thing
Mast.
that
You
comes
had a
up from a
mast.
sailboat? A mast.
You'll find it. Talk
Right.
it out.
Yeah.
Got
No,
it.
I was sailing.
Yeah, but you didn't have a mast. You don't even know the names of it.
I would love it if I could put a sail mast on my car. I think it would be a funny visual.
Okay. You
Sail
could.
cars is a funny visual.
It is a
could.
funny
You
visual.
could if you
Saves
want-
on
if-
gas.
They have
you-
those in Boston.
If you wanted to, you could do all of those things.
I know. I'm going to. Believe me.
You could break the law. The reason I asked if it's a holiday is because I saw a company email the other day for the first time telling me what the holidays were. I was learning for the first time what the holidays were, and this was not one of them. And so I was wondering, are the banks open today? How do you register what is a national holiday? Because I assume national holidays, all companies have off, and it seemed to me like most people are working today.
School, stock market. That's usually a good way to do it. But yes, it is a holiday. But don't think because you're watching us that we don't love the troops. We adore the troops. I love
Yeah,
the
we
troops
do.
so much that I wanted to be here just so I could say it on this wonderful platform, how much I love the troops. And I'm thankful because their actions, their bravery, their sacrifice allows me to live this wonderful life.
Did you guys see the internet going after Michael Strahan? Because there's a photo of like the Fox crew, and they all have their hands on their hearts during the national anthem, and he's standing, but he just doesn't have his hand on his heart. And I
What
didn't
algo
think
are you on?
I don't think you have to do that.
I don't either. I'm with
I'm telling
Lucy.
you.
Man, X is getting weird, huh?
It's been weird.
Who would have thought?
I didn't see that on Blue Sky.
Blue Sky kind of had a moment this weekend. I'm not gonna lie.
It did.
I'm on it.
I'm on Blue Sky. I'm more of a Threads guy. I don't understand. I get why people are going to Blue Sky because they don't want to run into the warm embrace of Mark Zuckerberg, given like the trauma, the very recent trauma that everybody's had with X. But it's not like you aren't posting on IG. Just come on, it's already embedded. You get your same follows. I'm over the Threads.
Lucy, can you please help me understand where you believe I should be starting the show today? Because I have so many football stats here. The Vikings, I don't know which game to talk about because the Vikings won a game that hadn't been won in 196 tries by anybody. Not since 2006, as a team had 0 touchdowns, 3 turnovers, and won the football game. But get the Vikings out of here. No one wants to talk about that today, right?
Right.
Pats Bears. Does anyone want to talk about Pats Bears? Bears allowing 9 sacks a game. Hey, you got to have some offensive linemen, or Caleb Williams isn't going to look any good. 2.5 yards per play.
I think I might save my Bears takes to later this week when we will do a victory lap, because that might be my most correctest take yet, which is that if the Bears finish with one more win than last year. This year was a smashing success. Meanwhile, everyone was like, they're going to make the playoffs. This is the best situation a rookie quarterback's ever been, and they're going to be amazing. I'm like, it's the Bears. That's the only analysis you need.
They
Save the
have
Bears.
23 straight drives with no touchdowns. That's 23 straight drives. That's brutal. They built a team around a rookie quarterback. That Bears team is built around, we have value at quarterback. He's got to immediately be good. Let's get him Keenan Allen. Let's get him skill position guys that are going to make it a win now immediately year. And you're going to go 23 drives without. I'm pretty sure Will Levis has had a better month than Caleb Williams has had statistically, and he hasn't played some of it.
Well, maybe that's why.
Maybe he means metaphorically too.
No, I mean statistically. I'm pretty sure I read among the many stats I read that Will Levis's last 4 games, most of which he has not played, are better than Caleb Williams' last 4 games.
Early on with his struggles, it was clear to identify, the offensive line situation isn't great, the coaching situation isn't great, but several weeks have gone by since, and he's not really doing anything with his level of play to mitigate everything that's working against him. Plenty of players have succeeded in the face of bad coaching. Hell, Aaron Rodgers is the highest-rated quarterback of all time. He hasn't exactly had a super dream run, a murderer's row of coaching in his career. You can overcome it. Caleb Williams is doing too much, but also too little.
Well, he shouldn't be starting, right? I mean, in retrospect, the problem is the Bears don't have a quality backup or a veteran backup, so they're sort of stuck letting this guy work out all his kinks.
But in today's NFL, those guys have to play, because if you actually do succeed and get a good rookie quarterback, you can set your team up to be really aggressive inside of a 4-year window. So he has to play. Look, other rookie quarterbacks are playing and not exactly regretting the decision to go with their quarterbacks. Jaden Daniels has transformed the Commanders franchise. People are saying that Sean Payton has found his franchise quarterback. So the other quarterbacks are playing. It's not an issue.
I want to get to that Pittsburgh Commanders game because I think a couple of different things. I'm with you now all. I'm sorry I'm late to this party. George Pickens does indeed play weird. I love how weird he plays, but he does indeed play weird. He had 3 plays yesterday where he seemed to be skipping merrily through people and then just attacking people without the football.
Getting weirder.
We will get to that in a second, but I'm legitimately having trouble with a few of the following things. As Mike Ryan correctly says, hey, Caleb Williams, speed it up. Speed it up. 10 games, speed it up. As I'm watching, this is a game we haven't talked about yet, and it was a good one yesterday. Kyle Shanahan, who used to be a young person, now looks like he's been ravaged by Key West, like ravaged by it. That person is young, and whatever it is, and he's been good in that sport, but whatever that job does to people and all his 10-point leads that disappeared, that dude looks ravaged. He looks like he aged more than Obama has. And I'm watching at the end of that game, and I'm like, holy shit, the quarterbacks cannot play better than what Purdy and Baker Mayfield are doing at the end of the game, where Baker Mayfield is holding Bosa off for 5 yards to make plays.
Tom Brady called that one of the greatest plays he's ever seen a quarterback
make.
make.
For a 4-yard gain. For a 4-yard game, because it's just holding Bosa off, because it's like holding a live LSU Tiger that was on the field off, because you know what that is.
Being with a great white shark in the water and you just put your hand on its snout hoping that you can survive it.
I would have been less surprised if what he had been holding at arm's length for 5 full seconds had been a great white shark, than that he was able to just make Bosa stand there and hold his arm for 5 yards, and that the arm wasn't in Bosa's teeth.
I'm still voting for him for MVP.
My point is, where it comes to quarterback evaluation, neither Baker Mayfield nor Brock Purdy deserved to lose that game. Purdy made 2 throws, one to Kittle and one a parabola to McCaffrey for 30 yards. Just asinine plays to feel like they're saving San Francisco's season. You guys realize you're being unreasonable with the quarterbacks, right? When you expect Caleb Williams to figure it out in 10 games, like it's not, and he's missing 4 offensive linemen, like that's not a sane place to live.
Especially when my example is Baker Mayfield, who it took him like maybe 50 games to get to the point of, we still don't kind of trust you.
Baker Mayfield's been just great, beyond great. You could make an argument for him as the MVP right now. But I think the anomaly is the Washington quarterback. The anomaly is not Caleb. He's supposed to struggle. The problem is they're going 23 series in a row without scoring, and they're sticking with him. Maybe he needs a break. maybe 2 games off would do him well. Put in Tyson.
Why do you refer to him as the Washington quarterback?
I didn't want to say, I don't like their nickname, and I don't want to use their old nickname, and I don't like their new nickname.
And he also doesn't like to say Jaden Daniels.
Couldn't
I
you
don't
just
say
said
Commanders.
Couldn't you have just said Jaden Daniels though?
What difference does it make? You don't know who he is?
Well, made me think you don't.
No, believe me, I'm discombobulated. I'm still trying to wrap my head around you having a pig named Babe Laufenberg. I mean, first of all, that implies that you and your wife have actually considered having a pig.
We have.
And if you do, you're going to name it Babe Laufenberg.
No, we have.
That's worth discussing.
We have, and I have.
Okay.
I 100% believe you. I think that I don't think that the situation is that Caleb Williams should be given up on by the fans or the franchise. I think the situation is that, I think a lot of people overlooked how bad the O-line situation and the coaching situation was coming into the season I've been saying since last year, I don't know why they stuck with Eberflus when it seemed after the season ended, they were pretty lukewarm about him. And it would have been probably a good time to bring in a new head coach when you're trading away Justin Fields so you can get Caleb Williams, who's supposedly going to change your franchise. So, those are two fairly big things that the Bears don't have going for them right now, and to be it's just the head coach and the offensive coordinator and the offensive line. Those are some pretty big things working against a rookie quarterback who hasn't gotten better throughout the season, and you can knock him for that. But I don't think that he's just a lost cause. I think the Bears need to, as an organization, seriously make some changes.
He's not a lost cause, but I do believe that people underestimate the mental ravages of taking someone just out of school who's always been great and telling them, hey, in 10 games, figure out this thing this football city hasn't figured out in 40 years. You're
right.
The savior, okay? I'm going to build it all around you. You're grown up enough to handle this, right? When no one is. All right, and you got no offensive lineman, and you're sacked 10 times. And it's 2 yards per play when we got you Keenan Allen, when we got you, we got you speed. We got you we got you speed, we got you expectations. I put him low on the list on what we're talking about today because he's not going to be one of the winners. Because half the league's not any good. Half the league, not any good. Close games galore because everyone's pretty equal. And so, okay, Giants, Carolina, it'll be close at the end, but we know we don't have to pay attention to you. We've talked more about the Bears than we should have, given what it is that's happened yesterday. Vikings, Jags deserve nothing. Titans, Chargers are only going to get nationally what they're going to get, which is Harbaugh. Defense. That's all the Chargers are getting.
But that's pretty good, though. They're a good team.
Yes, they are.
And Harbaugh, he's in the Coach of the Year mix right now.
Jets, Cardinals exists only to make fun of Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah. Absolutely.
What was that? What was that sound? What?
Sorry, I still have a lingering cough from last week.
And I think Lucy wants to start with college football. I don't think she wants to talk about professional football.
Yeah, you asked me this question 10 minutes ago of where we should start, and then completely forgot that I existed. But don't worry about it.
But you did finish the apple.
But you don't answer it.
You didn't give me the chance to answer.
I'm asking you.
I can't even remember all the options anymore.
It's
She's
yours.
done with her apple, though.
You said
you get
were
to
eating
choose.
an apple, and there were 4 other people here.
There are. 1, 2, 3, 4.
That seat, man. Roy the other day looked in my face and said he wasn't wearing a costume. And by the way, don't think I haven't noticed that none of you are paying your punishments again. And I'm going to have to go get Sarah Spain again because, again, another season goes by
I haven't
where
lost
the
yet.
listener can't trust us for anything. But in that seat, I looked at Roy and asked him why he didn't and hasn't served any of his punishments. And he said, I'm never here. Looked in my face and said it while sitting there.
On Halloween.
Wow. Some resentment
And now you're in that seat telling me I haven't asked you or waited for your answer when I've asked you several times, one of which you were eating an apple.
You asked me one time. Well, okay, twice, because you did ask me while I was eating the apple.
I'm asking you again now. It's the third or fourth time I'm asking you.
Let's rewind a little bit. You did ask me a second time, and then you gave me 15 different options, and then I've just lost
Lucy,
track.
the option isn't me picking. It's you picking whatever you think we should start the show with.
What should we start the show with? Here are some things, and then you listed 10 different games.
And now I'm asking you again. You pick one. You don't have to choose from mine. You might have a better one. Mike chose miraculous ridiculously. The Pitt game, not the Pitt
So
Steelers
important.
game, the Pitt Panthers
So
game.
important to the
Yeah, there's a
the
lot
ACC.
happening in the ACC
A lot of ramifications.
right now.
And if you want tickets to any of those conference games in the ACC, let me tell you, there's one place that you go in the secondary ticket marketplace, and that is the Game Time app. That is a Game Time app. I understand, Dan, that you may not have a full grasp of that wide receiver room in Chicago because you keep saying Keenan Allen. There's a rookie wide receiver from Washington. There's an old weapon from
They've
Carolina.
got DJ Moore, yes.
Yeah, a Dunze. They
Yes,
got some
one of
talent.
yes.
But it's not all on Keenan Allen, thankfully, for Caleb Williams. And thankfully, it's not all on you to find a better ticket out there in the ticket marketplace because Game Time now has Game Time Picks, a wonderful new feature that filters out the fluff and gives you the best seats at the best prices. You get all-in pricing with just the touch of a little tab at the top. You get no surprises at the checkout place, and then you also get panoramic seat views and stellar ticket coverage. Game Time app, I'm so thankful you're in my life. Hey, new customers out there, use a promo code DAN to redeem $20 off your first purchase on that majestic Game Time app. Download Game Time today. Chris Cody, what time is it? Game Time.
I used it yesterday. Went to the Iowa-Virginia Tech game in Charlotte. Nice. Great game. Go Hawks. Yeah. The women are back.
Put it on the poll, Juju at Le Batard Show. Does Kyle Shanahan look like he's been ravaged by Key West? Yes or no? He does.
He's just growing his beard out now.
But it's got a lot of gray. It's got a lot of stress in it.
He looked like really handsome when he decided to go with the mustache over the offseason, like a sophisticated man that came from money.
We can agree, right?
Wood-bottom
No
shoes.
matter what these people are paid, that these are stressful jobs, right? That Mike McCarthy doesn't feel very good today, no matter how much he's making. That Kyle Shanahan has done an awful lot of winning, but we associate him with, blown leads, and even though he's done it with people like Brock Purdy and Jimmy Garoppolo, he does all of this winning, and for some reason, people have now tired of him. In much the same way that Jessica is tired of the Kansas City Chiefs.
I'm still not clear on what Lucy said the storyline of the weekend was.
She's still thinking.
I have a choice, but I don't want to say it because I think people are going to get their feelings hurt.
Oh, you want to talk about University of Miami football?
Kind of a little bit.
Okay. No, I'm happy to. I want to also talk about Inter Miami. I don't know which was the
I thought it
more...
was her choice.
Yeah, I didn't choose Inter Miami.
you
Women
took the
don't have
wheel.
choices in Florida. That's
Yeah,
your
not
mistake.
anymore.
Touche.
Not anymore.
Touche.
Guess never.
Why'd you just pull out a sword and touche?
Jeremy Touche. Because, she made a political comment that I happen to agree with. I gave her a touche.
She also
but
made
you
a
should-
comment, and you were like, I don't want to talk about Miami. I want to talk about Inter Miami. That
No, I was
very
just-
rude.
I was
Jeremy's
putting-
coming from an honest place.
I was putting both of them next to each other and saying a brutal weekend for Miami sports
Yes.
with stakes on it. I'm pretty
At
sure
the hands of Atlanta.
Yeah,
didn't
double
all
ass
the
kicking.
didn't all the Florida teams lose? Like isn't all Florida football 0-10 this
Yeah,
this
they
Yeah.
lost
weekend?
this weekend.
Yeah.
0-11 across
11.
Florida. I can't believe Florida State didn't pull it out.
Yeah, that was the
Just can't believe
most
it.
surprising one.
52-3 against Notre Dame.
Good showing by them.
It made me sad. It made me feel bad. Todd Blackledge at the end of the game sort of like scolded Notre Dame for continuing to drive the ball and like throw the ball in the fourth quarter and then score. And I don't think Todd Blackledge realized that Notre Dame had all of their backups in, their backup quarterback, walk-on wide receivers, and Florida State still could not stop them.
The history of the sport has not seen a drop this precipitous in what it is that's happened to FSU. We have not seen it. They went back to 1960 to give a percentage drop of from 13-1 to 1-9 from one season to the next. It doesn't have much precedent in the history of college football.
This Miami topic rocks. Keep going.
I will get to Lucy's Miami topic in a second, but Tony has phoned in now.
Why
from
did you
Coconut
ask me
Grove.
to choose and then
know.
ignore it?
Coconut
And then you
Grove.
get mad at me? This is ridiculous.
went great. That
You
went
need
great.
60% in this state, I guess.
Tony,
No matter if most people want something.
Tony
don't
is
get a choice.
in Coconut Grove, and he has his top 5 football things. I imagine he has more than 5. Oh, that is still there. That is still there.
Still here.
I can't believe that that's still in Coconut Grove. How long has that been there?
Dan, when was the last time that you were at Barracudas? Question.
I'm gonna say 11 years ago.
Okay, so 11 years ago, you were here in college, no? Early 90s?
That's many years ago, but you said last time. Yes, 30 years ago, I was there much too much.
So add another 30 years to that. This has always been here. This is an establishment here in Coconut Grove. This is actually the first time that we've done something at Tony's Top 5 here in Coconut Grove, my home away from home. I had a guy walk by me just before we got on air, said, Dan Le Batard, I love that guy. I said, all right, we're going live. There's another guy over here doing a dissertation, but just cracked open a Miller Lite. I mean, that's the Grove for you. Like, anything can happen in the Grove.
Do you have
just a beautiful? They have a Veterans Day parade, by the way. Today is a holiday, by the way. They have a Veterans Parade here at Coconut Grove starting in a couple minutes. But yes, I do have more than just 5, Dan, to answer your question.
Kuda's opened in 95, according to their Instagram.
Okay,
Nah.
so just after college.
Nah, it's always been here.
When I was there. So, Tony, you've got your top 5, and you've got a couple of extra as well. Let's get started. Where do you want to get started?
Let's get to the OLI. I heard a lot of different starts to the show. People wanted to start here. People want to start there. I'm going to start right here. Eagles back?
It's a question.
With the eyeball emoji.
I feel like yesterday was about
it's eyeball emoji, though.
Dallas losing, not Philadelphia winning. I feel like that was
sure.
When we're talking to Jerry Jones about poorly building your stadium because the sunlight is affecting CeeDee Lamb's ability to see the ball.
Whoa.
Sorry.
Please do not spoil the list.
Okay, my bad. I'm sorry.
I was listening. I was listening very intently because last week we talked about, Tony, why don't you listen to the show on days you're not in so you can take stuff out of your top 5 when things get said on the show? And I was waiting and hoping that things didn't get mentioned during the start of the show that I could bring up now during the show. So, something that was brought up, but obviously everybody's talking about it because it's probably the hottest thing in the Mile High City. Bo Nix showing us something right now, Dan.
Oh, my God. So we're here. 10 games in. Bo Nix is everything Caleb Williams isn't.
I mean, you said it, not me. Did you see the pass on, I think it was a 3rd and 8? He kind of like got out of the pocket and threw an absolute laser to Cortland Sutton to get them in position to kick that game-winning field goal. I mean, the kid's got something.
Who you looking
Last
at? What
OLI,
are you looking
here
at?
it is.
Why are you looking around? Keep your eye on the prize. Keep your eye on the prize.
Just people giving us fist bumps because they see kind of what we're doing here and they love it. People getting fired up in the Grove
Use the camera,
early.
though. Use the camera. Not everyone around you. The camera's right in front of you.
Oh, I know that guy. Yeah, there he is.
Wow, what a crowd!
All right. It's early, Greg.
Tony is surrounded by all of the people who are getting hyped for tonight's Dolphins game, expecting the Dolphins to rescue their season against the Rams. He's surrounded by all the energy and power of South Florida loving the Dolphins. OLI, keep going, Tony.
Last one. It was a bad moment. It was almost Kalawasa for Sam Darnold. Almost. If they wouldn't have pulled out that game, Dan, it would have been Kalawasa.
Really?
And I hate to say that, but it's the truth. Yeah.
So many. I think how many interceptions has he thrown inside the 25-yard line this season? Is it 7, 8?
A million.
It's a lot.
A million.
Okay, I think it's less than a million. It might be less than 6 or 7, but it's a lot.
Ask Kevin O'Connell. He'll let him tell you a million because it feels like it. All right, we'll start off with our number 5 here, the good stuff. Jared Goff has now thrown his 7th career game with at least 4 interceptions. His record in those games, Dan, 6-0.
Wow.
No way.
That can't
be right. That's according on Twitter to Mr. Civ. That's according to Mr. Civ on Twitter. But Dan, I'm just telling you, Goff tosses 5 interceptions.
Are you sure he's not making that up?
Is he making it up?
I think he's making that up.
Dan, you know how it is.
I don't think you verified that stat. That stat can't be right.
Dan, if there's any stat on Twitter, you know it's correct. That's just the facts. I don't.
No way that's right.
There's nothing I can do about that.
It can't be right.
All right, so the Lions end up clawing back and winning that game. Dan, do you know what the Lions are right now?
The best team in the NFL.
That can't be true.
Team of destiny, Dan.
That
a team of destiny.
There's no way that he's thrown 4 interceptions that many times.
Not that he's 6-0.
You guys look it up.
There's no way that he's done it 6 times.
I believe he has.
Yeah,
I believe
you think he's thrown 4 interceptions in a game 6 times?
I believe Jared Goff probably has 4 interception games. I do not believe that he's 6-0 in those games. I will not believe that. You can
According
show
to
me
Mr. Civ.
No, there's just no way that's real. Also,
I didn't say it.
Also,
Mr. Civ did.
Get
Also-
Civ on the phone.
Also not real. Jessica said to me just a second ago, we're just on number 5? Number 4.
Yeah. Number 4, we've built the most intricate cathedrals of football in the 21st century, yet at Jerry World, the sun is still making a difference during scoring plays, Dan. The sun got into CeeDee Lamb's eyes, and as he ran by,
He did.
the ball went right by him. He put his hands up.
I know.
He's only thrown 4 interceptions in a game twice. And he lost the other one.
Mr. Civ, that's not my fault. That's Mr. Civ.
Tony, you got to do better than that. Come on, Tony. Number 3.
Mr. Civ, Dan.
Who is Mr. Civ?
Number 3.
I take back calling that a good stat.
Tony-
He's the guy that put up the stat on Twitter.
Tony, you got to verify. You got to verify who the people are. Take it from someone who's been butt cracked. You got to verify it.
Vet it.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's better when you don't.
That's
Number
true.
3. And I was worried that this was going to come up during the Caleb Williams conversation, and I was hoping that it didn't, and I'm glad it didn't. Because number 3 is Caleb Williams at the beginning of the season texted rookie punter Torrey Taylor that you're not going to be punting much here. They punted 8 times yesterday and 45 times for the season.
Yeah, they're not good. Not good at offense. I feel for that kid.
Number 2, we're about to find out if the Steelers are the best team in football or the 3rd best team in their division. Tough division, Dan. Bengals could beat them twice in the next couple of games. And then what? And then what do we do?
Jessica made a face at you. Jessica's not having you not believing in her 2
She
lost
always does, though.
Steelers.
She always makes a face at me.
Jessica thinks.
No, I like them.
Put it on the poll.
Dan, the beginning of it was we're about to find out if they're the best team in football.
Put it on the
Or
poll
third best
at
in the
Le
division.
Batard Show. Who's the best team? The 8-2 Steelers or the 4-6 Bengals? Who's better?
Hot. They were hot, though. Offense is getting rolling. Number 1, Dan, and this is one that I'm very happy to announce. The classic. Fire your coach. Start scraps on offense because everybody is hurt. But have a fiery assistant coach take over with a great nickname. Win for the Saints. Coach Riz. That was electric yesterday, you got to admit, right? They had Marquez Valdez-Scantling catching touchdown. Derek Carr. I mean, who was on that team? All of a sudden, you look at Coach Riz on the sidelines, and he's like,
Well, that's
Great
how
nickname,
that's
Coach
how he
Riz.
was in the
That's Tony's
morning,
top 5.
too. Thank you, Tony. You left out the Coach Riz statistic that everyone was talking about yesterday. He went into the press conference afterward and explained that his Sunday started with him just clogging a toilet.
He's 6-0 whenever he clogged the toilet before a game.
that's right.
Can you give me a snapper
According to
sandwich,
Mr. Civ, Dan,
Tony?
thank you.
I don't think it's open yet.
Ooh,
I
the
think
best
it's
snapper
later.
sandwich
Some
you'll
wings.
ever have.
Snapping it.
It's not open yet, but they're inside, and I'm actually going to knock on the door, maybe get a couple Miller Lights to go, bring you a snapper sandwich. Dan, you want anything? Fish dip? You're a fish dip kind of guy,
Oh,
right, Dan?
fish dip. Yes.
I don't think they're going to
You're a
open
fish dip guy.
anytime
I know, Dan.
soon.
I love
Thank
fish
you,
dip.
Tony. Appreciate your top
For me,
5.
they're going to open. No worries.
Tony's Top 5 is presented by DoorDash. Get all your game day faves delivered. Head to DraftKings.com/DoorDash to play for free. Restrictions apply. Void where prohibited.
By the way, while we're on the topic, Kudas, they know how to be spooky. Very spooky around Halloween season. They had some nice inflatable spiders in their trees around the picnic tables. Very spooky establishment. I'm a big fan.
Great place to take a dog.
How do you guys feel about Darren Rizzy saying his Sunday began with clogging a toilet?
Love it. I love the honesty. He grew up in a Dolphins camp, so he knows how to take a crap.
You love it. Let's play the sound of Coach Rizzy making everyone emotional, because who doesn't understand the humanizing connection points involved with clogging a toilet?
This is how my day started. I get down here to the stadium, I get down to the Superdome, I go in the head coach's locker room, which I've never used before, right? So here I am early in the morning, I go to the bathroom, and this is how my day started. I clogged the toilet. And I'm like, this is going to be a crappy day, pun intended. And so listen, I'm like, okay, this is not really a great start to the day. Here we go. And so, I'm not really feeling like a head coach of an NFL team right now. So, so I'm like, really? This is really how we're going to start my day?
If your coach doesn't sound like that, he's not coaching right. Yeah. That's what a coach should sound like right there.
I agree. The scratchy voice, perfect. Perfect. And the special teams coach, you put a mic in front of a special teams coach, you're going to get gold because they're not used to anybody talking to them.
He's the interim head coach.
Well, whatever. He's he's 1-0, 1-1, whatever he is. It's 500. Throwing his hat in the ring.
You really don't have anything on this, huh? Like you just petered out and
You started the show by saying you could go for 4 straight hours.
I could,
Yes.
but like
Yeah, here's what.
you petered out
Okay,
in
let
time.
me have-
You're staring at us. You got nothing. You're just
Okay, the subject is a coach taking a crap and sticking up the toilet. What am I supposed to have on that?
I
We've
think you
all
did-
done it.
You did all that you could with that story.
Thank you.
you,
I mean,
you
appreciate
did
your contribution.
you
I've done it a lot. Nobody ever interviews me about it. What am I supposed to say, Rizzy? I mean, good for him. I give him credit for honesty. I think a lot of, Mike Tomlin probably stuck up the toilet before he played Sunday. He didn't
What?
admit it. He would never.
I'm with my
coaches
dad.
would never admit that.
There has to be another head coach in the league that did that on Sunday and isn't talking about it.
Thank you, Zagacki.
Dan Campbell, Lucy can attest.
That coffee diet, it's not pleasant.
I
for
don't.
anybody.
Tell me about it.
I do not believe that there is another coach in the NFL that clogged the toilet in the morning and is covering it up.
Have you looked at Andy Reid lately?
Lucy is claiming she's being silenced, she's being censored, but this is just scheduled. Dominique Foxworth is here now, and he clearly doesn't want to talk about the University of Miami football team. He's here to talk about professional football. And so, Lucy, I'm sorry, we're going to have to postpone it for a little while. It's not because we're against women, and it's not because we don't want to celebrate the University of Miami losing. It's just because Dom was scheduled here.
Usually when you have to say it's not because we're against women, it means it's because you're against women.
Okay, well, I don't know who you have me being more against here, women or against talking about Georgia Tech defeating the University of Miami. Which am I more against, do you think? Well, not interested in your opinion, actually. Let's get to Dominique Foxworth now, because the Dominique Foxworth Show is something that a lot of people are listening to now on Mondays and every day, but especially on Mondays because his analysis is a little bit better and more thorough than everyone else's. Let me start with a couple of things, one of which is, where would you say you would start any show today if you were talking professional football, if you only had one storyline and you had to say this is the storyline of the day on a fun Sunday?
First of all, I'm going to need you to do your podcast rankings at some point, because you say that foolishness about everybody who has a show anywhere.
Yes.
This is the best thing ever. Mina's show is the best. You want good football? Go to God Bless Football. It's the best. Ron McGill knows more about animals than anybody and anything. Like the hyperbole, I want real truth. Like, if my show is great, then say it's great. But you know you don't even listen to it, do you, Dan?
I didn't say your show was great. I said that the analysis was better than most I find in the places where I'm looking for the astute.
Nice.
I didn't say it was a great show. I said the analysis was good.
You're good with words.
I've also never listened. Yeah, and I don't like your producer. Yeah. Never have. Charlie Kravitz is overrated. Industry-wide, everyone knows it.
I will not stand for you disrespecting my co-host.
Just
but
truth.
The producer Charlie, he can get it. Charlie, the co-host, the vanilla snack, as the ladies call him, he is not underrated. He's got a little fan base brewing, a little fan base think Charlie and his curls is kind of cute.
Jessica's shaking her head. I don't know what she thinks of Charlie, but that didn't seem like
he's a Commanders fan. He was my enemy yesterday, and now moving forward, he will be my friend who I think that I'm better than.
Dominique is out here as one of the few. You're not going to like what Dominique has to say about your Steelers. He doesn't believe that they can hold up with Russell Wilson throwing 50-50 balls all the time.
She knows.
I listened to the show. I listened to the show on my way into work this morning. I know what Dominique thinks, and I know what Bill thinks of the Steelers. And you know what? That's fine. No one needs to believe in the Steelers. I'm having a great time. There's been 7 Sundays this year where I've gone to sleep in my little bed, happy watching Mike Tomlin press conferences where he's saying that he's a degenerate. And you know what? That's all I need to sustain me through this long, cold winter, Dan.
Mike Tomlin is lovable, and we all love him. And the Steelers are a really fun team that I think are going to make the playoffs and probably have a chance to win a game or so. But that good sleep that you've been having, it's going to go away when you look at who you got coming up on the schedule, because you have the best quarterback and the best offense in football, and not to mention Derrick Henry. So as good as your defense has been, this will be a very big test for them going up against the Ravens, but you're going to score like 35 points against the Ravens defense, though. So you got that going. Shootout is what you got.
Who's better, 8-2 Steelers or 4-6 Bengals?
I think the 8-2 Steelers are better. Like, the Bengals' defense has been an issue, and their inconsistency is a problem.
Well
I think
said.
they give games away.
Ouch.
They give games away, whereas the Steelers never give games away. I appreciate a well said from Chris Cody. It is nice. It's very nice. It's like Michael Jordan commenting on me jumping from the free throw line. It is impressive. The king of stutter stumbles has pointed out one of my stutter stumbles. I feel like I've made it now.
The Chiefs are the blank best team in football this year based on how you do the measurements.
4th? 3rd? I don't know. Like, I know that this is – the tough thing about watching the Chiefs is they are entering that territory where they are no longer lovable, and they feel like they have a curse on the rest of the league. I know you do point differential a lot, and it's a great measurement, particularly for this team, because they line up well with last year's 8-1 Eagles team with like a 50-something point differential. And when you have a team that's undefeated and has a chance to go undefeated throughout the whole season, you think about the 2007 Patriots, which we looked up. The 07 Patriots at this point, well said, were 230-point differential, I believe. Right now, the Chiefs are at like a 50-point differential. The tough thing about counting them out, though, is the things that they do well. It does feel like are sustainable. Like, it's ridiculous. Patrick Mahomes on third down, and Patrick Mahomes in that team is outscoring everybody by a tremendous margin in the fourth quarter. Those things do match up kind of with the theory of this team just hits the switch. So I hate to say that it's possible that they can do it because I've never seen it done before. But if any team can do it, they can do it. But blocking a field goal is an absolute fluke. Like,
okay, but wait a minute, though, Dom. When you mentioned the 07 Patriots, that's the best team of my lifetime. They overwhelmed, throttled everyone, and then they lost in the Super Bowl. This Chiefs team is not anything like that. And the worst part about this Chiefs team to me, they've ruined what I used to enjoy about Patrick Mahomes because salary cap, everyone's going to be equal. You got to pay everyone. Now I'm watching the Chiefs, and it's like, yeah, on 3rd and 5, he's going to run for 6 yards, and they're going to keep getting it, but I don't like playing football that way. Like that, what that team used to be versus what I'm watching now, it's like, okay, they'll make their third down conversions because he's amazing, but you're always doing it in 9-yard windows? Like, this is crud football I'm watching offensively that needed a blocked field goal to win yesterday because Mahomes got 2 scores.
Yeah, I mean, but I think you're right, and maybe the salary cap has some impact on it, but we can't blame the salary cap altogether because we're looking at, again, to go back to the Ravens, the best offense in football, one of the best offenses of all time. They paid their quarterback too. Like, there are ways around falling into this dark trap of blaming good players for getting the money they deserve for ruining the fun of our offense, or the fun of our league. So I don't think it's all on the salary cap. They've missed on draft picks like Sky Moore and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Like, these were the players that were supposed to launch this offense into the stratosphere and keep it going. And they have some major issues with, like, the left tackle. At a certain point in that game, Patrick Mahomes stopped dropping back with his back to his left tackle, and he started backpedaling because he could not bear the idea of turning his back to the left tackle because he kept getting hit in the back by Benito. So, like, yeah, there are problems with this team. And, yeah, when you pay your quarterback, it gets harder. You have to trade people away. But there's no reason for this offense to be so boring. And some of the issues that they're having is tight man coverage. They don't got anybody that can beat tight man coverage. And as good as DeAndre Hopkins is, he's going to win contested catches. And you expect Xavier Worthy to be the weapon that destroys all these defenses, but Patrick can't hit him on target sometimes, and sometimes Xavier Worthy seems to play like he's a rookie who's never played in NFL. And all these things come to become some big problem, but what happens is you get him in the fourth quarter, and Patrick finds a way to scramble where he's running like his knees don't like each other, and it's so uncomfortable and ugly, but he gets a conversion and it hits Travis Kelce in the middle of the field. Well said.
Has that not been weird to all of you to see Patrick Mahomes, who's not an old man, his body has aged so much that he is now officially slow? Like, he's not, like, not that he was ever that much faster than everyone, but I feel like I remember the way that his youth has been extinguished. I've watched it televised. That he's no longer a young person. He's running around like an old person.
Yeah, he has an awkward gait. Like he doesn't run smooth. He reminds me of what Dan Marino looked like running with the football late in his career. He's older. He plays older than he looks in terms of running.
Well, but beyond that, though, Dominique, help me with something, given your expertise on how the athleticism in the sport has changed. I feel like in college and pros, every weekend, I'm watching something and see somewhere a catch made that I'm like, man, that's one of the best catches I've ever seen. Pickens made one of these catches in the game yesterday where he's flipping his body around in mid-flight. And I'm like, does anybody know how hard it is to do what that man just did in the end zone? Because that catch, I don't know if it's even going to get a lot of attention today, but it's one of the best catches I've ever seen.
We had a reverse hurdle last week. Like, I agree with you. The athletes and the explosiveness and the coordination and talent is at an all-time high. I think that's one of the positive kind of repercussions of, like, the professionalization of youth athletics is that you get guys where you sort through and find the right player at the right position for the right sport a lot earlier and a lot more often. And then they're practicing and they're watching and they have access to all these highlights from the time that they're 8, 9, 10 years old, and they're working on things and they're learning things until they get to the point where we see it materialize on Sundays. I'm not sure when this eventually stops. I guess it depends on what the inputs are and how those particularly change. And I think right now we're at a situation where professional sports has been so ingrained in our culture that prior to this, like when I was younger and prior to that, it was like, yeah, you would want to be a professional athlete, but it was like free agency. And that happened in 93. And that started to change where it felt like it was a real career path. And I think that the results is what we're seeing on Sunday. I'm not sure if it starts to tail off and we don't keep getting ridiculous athletes, because at some point, once you have a Derrick Henry, at some point you're like, look, it don't get no better than this. I mean, Lamar Jackson, it don't get no better than this. We cannot imagine that there are going to be some athletes at this level. You have these one-handed catches, like OBJ caught the ball with 3 fingers, like 50 yards down the field. I can't imagine that at some point someone's just going to go index thumb and snatch it out of the sky. Like, we're done. We're done evolving.
It is crazy. You're seeing yourself as an athlete during your prime, and you're realizing, even though you're one of the most confident people I've ever met and would have had to be to climb to the top of that sport, you're still looking at people and being like, I don't understand. Like, the physical nature of what it is that I'm watching in the last 10 years has gotten so much better that I feel old watching it.
Don't be stupid, Dan. I'm ridiculous world-class athletes. I'll cook them kids. If I was fresh and I ain't tear my ACL, I get my knee right, my quad strength. Now, I'm talking about everyone else, not me. Like, I would fit right in this era, in any era.
Chris Cody, do you have a read here that would support that commentary?
This segment is presented by LinkedIn Jobs. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/prep. Terms and conditions apply. Read it perfectly.
I'm proud to have Dominique Foxworth, and I'm sure LinkedIn is proud to have that analysis of I'm still better than all these kids. I just got to get my quad right.
Yeah, it's just the right one. The right one. Once you get an ACL surgery, sometimes your quads, they don't fire like they used to. It is a little depressing sometimes.
Where are you on the way that coaches in the sport have gone the entire other way on 4th down? Yesterday, during that Steelers-Commanders game, in his own territory, Mike Tomlin on 4th and 1 in a critical slot went for it while the announcers were saying 10 minutes left in the game, 4th quarter, you got to punt it here. What is your make of the way, your take on the way that all of this has changed? So it's the most common thing in the world now where the announcers are more risk averse than the coaches are.
Yeah, well, I'm happy that we're at a point that is acceptable to even consider and that there's a question there, because you're right. I think some of the best way to go about this is if you put yourself on the other side, what would you rather have happen? And most of the time, I want you to punt the ball. As the fan of the other team or someone who has some stake in this game, or you're just watching because you care a lot about football, I tend to want them to punt the ball because I feel more comfortable. 1 yard is not a big distance, and it puts the game away. And then it really works really well when you can catch Johnny Newton, a young player, with a nice hard count at the end of the game, which is something also that you can do that we've never seen work, but it's starting to work apparently now because our players are getting young and they're super athletes who are not as smart as we were back in the day. See how you turn that, Dan? That's the difference.
Well, I saw Jessica. I agree with Jessica. Jessica yesterday said that that's the best play in football. It's better than the Hail Mary. You outsmart the other team. You make them jump offside. You leave with the smug satisfaction of we were smarter than you too. It's not just that we beat you. It's at the end we outmaneuvered you, and then we just knelt on the ball.
I hate that play.
I love it.
It never works. Like, there's 9 out of 10 times no one jumps. All you have done is force us to watch uneventful non-snap. But it happened to work this time. And you know what? That means that we're going to see this 15 more times the rest of the season. It's not going to work. Just punt the ball or go for it. Don't come out there and line up and start pump faking on me.
Am I the only one that felt bad for that guy, the rookie that jumped? Hands immediately on the head. It made me sad. I mean, I had the Steelers, so I was happy, but it was I was just like, oh, poor guy.
No.
The whole world knew they weren't going to, like, there was no play drawn. The whole world knew. It didn't matter. It was beautiful.
He's
perfect.
He's been really good, too, so far this season, which is, like, pretty disappointing, and it looked like he was shedding tears on the sideline. So, yeah, I felt a little bad. As bad for him as good I felt for Bryce Young, because I had the same feeling where I saw him, just big grin on his face. Like, oh, look at that kid. He's happy. It's nice.
I'm sure his mentions won't be a dumpster fire at all. I'm sure that the Washington fans with a season of expectations will just shrug that one off and say, it happens, kid. People make mistakes. We're all human.
Mm-hmm. I mean, to be fair, if there is a fan base that will forgive him, it's Washington, because it's been sad here for a long, long time. There have been so many moral victories. I think the Commanders are undefeated this season. The games that they've won and the games they lost, they felt so good about hanging in there against the Ravens. They felt really good. Well, I guess maybe they're getting to the point now where there's starting to be some expectations, but I do think generally this fan base is a lot like the Texans were last year, where not much was expected, and they're overachieving, so everyone's just incredibly happy, and then they stole that win on the Hail Mary play. I think if there's a fan base that's willing to forgive, and Johnny Newton's been a revelation on that D-line, I think a lot of people here in D.C. will hug Johnny and Jaden Daniels and accept just about anything from them as long as no one lets Jaden get hurt.
Do you guys have a favorite play from yesterday? Because I have one that I like better than all the others, and it's again Josh Allen rolling to the sideline, and just before getting to the sideline, right before the first half, throws it well down the field, and he's the only one in the sport who completes these passes. And Matt Collins not only catches it, but with 8 seconds left, gets up off the ground 40 yards down the field, and then runs out of bounds so they don't have to use their timeout. There aren't a lot of quarterbacks in the history of the sport who make that play, and he consistently does. Do you have a favorite play from yesterday, Dom?
I mean, Drake May did a similar, like Josh Allen near the sideline pass that was awesome. Baker Mayfield held off one of the Bosas with a stiff arm while delivering a perfect pass. Just about any of the interceptions, the 5 interceptions that Jared Goff threw last night and still managed to win. Like, yeah, there were some really, really incredible plays. I think one of my favorite plays, though, after the game was Micah Parsons throwing his head coach under the bus. It's pretty great.
Tell us more about what's happening in Dallas, because Micah Parsons makes a difference, but not, I mean, they were good in the first half defensively, and they were able to slow Philadelphia simply because Micah Parsons was there. But I could see why Micah Parsons would look around at his team and feel like, oh, no one here is as excellent at what they do as I am at what I do.
Yeah, but he hasn't been excellent all this season because he hasn't been playing much. And I am never one to tell someone, like, you can only do one thing at a time, but you're going to get some backlash when it feels like you are a much more active podcast host and a pretty good podcast host than you are a football player. And when you show up and dominate, and then after the game you suggest that the coach is kind of lazy, like, that's a hard thing for people to listen to. And whether it's true or false, this tends to not be the case for most teams. It's like if you have a criticism of somebody on your team, you handle it in-house. And it feels like the wheels have come completely off in Dallas. And Jerry Jones seems to be moving further and further from reality if he believes that this team is going to be competitive and they only got to do a couple things to get things right. The tension down there is going to be hot, like the spotlight's going to be hot, but the talent is not there to support the amount of attention that they're going to get, which only makes it boil more and more because they get so many questions. They're a national story, and they stink.
Sunlight in your eyes?
Oh, gosh. Yeah,
Sounds
I guess
like you were singing
everyone
a
can
song.
be blamed. That would be a beautiful start to a song. You are the sunlight in my eyes.
Sunlight in your eyes. Okay, let's think of a way to sing that song where I will produce a song about the Dallas Cowboys, Sunlight in My Eyes. Mike Ryan, we can finally get to some college football with Dominique. Surely you will have some questions that will satisfy Lucy because she yearns for college football talk.
Dominique, you closely follow your Maryland Terrapins, and they had Oregon this week. And I'm not exactly sure if in college football there is a complete great team that you'll find consensus on that says this team is dominant. But I think most people might venture to say Oregon. What were your thoughts on them?
We had them on the ropes, Mike. We had them right where we wanted them. We were only down 14 in the fourth quarter. Everything was going according to plan. It was a tough loss. I mean, I think you're right. This team, and maybe this is the future of college football in that it's not going to be any great teams that pull away because of the way that NIL has changed things in the transfer portal. I'm sure you know this better than I. I like it so far. I'm not sure how much I'm going to like it into the future because I do love those marquee matchups where I know that everything's going to come down to this particular Saturday, but it feels a lot more like the NFL, which I really enjoy. So I think it's encouraging. It sucks, though, because the stories are going away to some degree. Like the Georgia being dominant was always a story. Alabama being dominant was always a story, and that felt good and was exciting. And this year, like, I was on the Miami bandwagon. Like, I have relationships with people in Miami. I was enjoying it. Cam was fun. That was awesome. And then it reminds me of like the college basketball tournament where everyone gets excited for upsets, and then they realize at the end of the season in the Final Four that they're upset that the teams that are left are some terrible like mid-market teams with names we don't know, brands that we don't like. It's disappointing. So it was fun. The upset was fun, but I'm going to miss Miami. Guess they'll still make the playoff because they'll dominate the ACC.
Do you guys have not flawed college football teams? Is there such a thing? Like, is Ohio State and Oregon the closest thing that we're coming to not flawed college football teams, allegedly?
Indiana? Are they not flawed?
Impossible.
Yeah, I mean, I actually kind of like it a little bit better this way because it did get kind of old. I thought Georgia was going to three-peat, last year, and that didn't happen. It's fun knowing
now they're not even likely percentage-wise to make the playoff.
No, I mean, they would have to win this weekend against Tennessee. I kind of like it because the SEC every year has always been Alabama at the top, Georgia at the top, and now you have Vanderbilt upsets, and Ole Miss is competitive. I kind of like that we're in sort of a different age where we're not seeing the same four teams every year, and I think with the playoff expanding, I don't think we're running the risk as much of teams we don't know and don't really like that much, making the playoff, with the sense that, yeah, you will have a Boise State in there. You do get a Big 12 and an ACC automatic bid, and those conferences aren't as strong, but you're still going to have Ohio State, Oregon, Texas, Alabama in the playoff. So I think it still gives the chance for the teams that are better than the rest to rise above the top. It's just the only thing that I'm concerned with that is everyone is playing a lot more games, so there's a lot more opportunity to mess up.
Dom, I'm assuming that they will lose at some point here, but I have been surprised to see, and it's one of the great surprises of the season to me, that Colorado would quietly start hitting Deion Sanders' $100,000 bonuses on 7 wins, that he's made $400,000 because quietly, the part that I'm stunned by is quietly Deion Sanders' team is a lot better than any of us expected it to be. What's happening there?
Yeah, I don't know. I think your answer is the fact that we're not paying attention to it is shocking. And I will go back to one thing that Lucy was saying is I think she's right. Generally, there have been more. It's just me being old and having a hard time accepting the new way that college football works, because there have been more like game of the century type weekends and more games that I felt like I had to watch this season than I remember in previous seasons. So that's been fun, and that's going to keep going on. But I have no answer for the Deion Sanders thing. The part that's surprising is that it's quiet. I'm not surprised that they're doing pretty well. They're not in one of those top tier situations where they're going to get a bunch of attention, but we should be there. I do have one complaint though. Like, no one stopped down to celebrate how I did the Dan move, where you sneak a double entendre in there and then everyone thinks that you're a fancy writer because you were like, hey, the upsets happen. And then at the end, you are upset. That was such a Le Batardian move that I was
really
not
good.
worth it. No one said, ooh, you're a writer.
Yeah,
It
well
wasn't
done.
that good. And
It
he was
wasn't?
impressed
That was
by
great.
himself.
It was off the top of the dome. Like, I'm in the middle. No?
The Golden
Okay.
Dome.
I think the thing with Colorado is that, like, I don't want to say, but like sort of the novelty of the situation has kind of worn off because it was so overdone last year where all we were talking about was Colorado. And although that team is a lot better, and like you said, it's so much better than we expected, we've kind of seen all Deion sort of just like his big personality and the antics with this team that it's not as fun. Obviously, this weekend had kind of a weird moment with a tortilla that I don't feel like it's safe for me to talk about. But Colorado really controls their own destiny right now, which is kind of crazy. The Big 12 is wide open. Iowa State lost for the second week in a row. BYU is still undefeated, but like Colorado wins out and they make it to the playoff. But like it's crazy because their viewership numbers are down like 50%. No one is watching Colorado and no one's talking about Colorado.
I'll say it, Lucy. It's Dan's fault. It's Dan's fault. He was going way too hard for Colorado last year when they were not as good. They've been better this year, but also the Big 12 as a conference is just much more even than the Pac-12 was last year. So even though they don't have much of a run game, their defense can't really stop the run very well. They're in it because the Big 12 is just a very strange conference this year. Their schedule coming up is tricky. They're going to have to go on the road at Kansas, which is going to be tough for them. But this is Dan's fault because we took up all the oxygen with Colorado talk last year, and now no one has the appetite for it. So This is just because
That's,
of
I mean,
you.
it's convenient that it happens when he starts winning. That's awfully convenient. That now no
He
one
started
has the
winning
appetite
last year.
for
They
it.
were 3-0. That's why it started. But their team wasn't as good as it is this year. So then when they went on their losing streak, we were all like, "What the hell? You guys told us this team was great," and they were fun to watch. I'm not denying that, but they were winning last year. That's why it all started.
I mean, a year ago, when they started off 3-0, they became the most hyped team in all of sports, not just college football. And they ended up, whatever they did,
4 wins.
4 wins after a 3-0 start. Huge disappointment. And now they're pretty good, but they're still ranked 18th.
All right, wait a minute.
They
Wait
play
a minute,
in a
wait
weak
minute.
conference.
Just stop, okay? He inherited the worst program in the country, and Mario Cristobal and Deion Sanders have done good jobs in their second and third year, respectively. I'm not going to move the goalposts on what those investments were. Those have cashed. Both of those have cashed. Like, it may not be enduring. They may change, but don't move the goalposts on Deion.
but
He's lost. He's got a team that's a lot better than any of us thought it was, and he changed the expectations by beating TCU at the beginning of last season. Like, he's made them good, and you can question how good if you want, but I'm not going to question how good his quarterback is, and I'm not going to question how good his wide receiver is, because both of them have been best players in the country type of good.
All right, I'll say it. Travis Hunter shoved a tortilla down his pants during the middle of the game. It's very odd. It was very weird. I believe he signed it after. Yeah. Weird.
Why is this team so? I mean, since I have access to Lucy and Jess right now, I would like to know, like, why is it that they're much better? And a question for Greg also: is that a new shirt?
It is a new shirt. Thank you.
Oh yeah, that's
For
nice.
my press
You look
box
good.
collection.
I think
Look
Shador
like somebody
signed the
cares about
tortilla.
you.
Yeah, thank you.
The one that was in Travis's
nice.
pants?
I don't know about that. There was a hole in it.
Okay. There's a lot of stuff
There
going on.
was a hole in the middle of it.
What is that signed tortilla worth?
Whatever, someone will pay for it.
Well, I assume, I don't know what the kids like with fame, but Travis Hunter seems to be very popular, and Colorado still seems to be very popular with young people because they're at least in part a little bit different than everything that surrounds them. It's rare that Shador Sanders spends some time lecturing us as a college quarterback. It's not something I'm used to hearing the college quarterbacks do. Because he's got a strength of voice that comes from growing up and watching what his father does in terms of strength. So, like, he's one of the rare athletes I see leaning into whatever it is your buzzsaw of criticism might be.
Are autographs still a thing?
It's a good
Do
question.
people still want autographs?
No, we do selfies now.
Yeah, selfies. Yeah.
I mean, it was a weird thing to start with. That it ever became a thing before. Like, if you actually think about it, it's like, who was the first person? I guess it's like pre-photograph. It's like you want to prove that you met someone. Is that why we have autographs? It's like, I want you to sign this, notarize it.
It is weird. You're right. Autographs are strange, and they have been replaced almost entirely by the selfie, because then you can have indeed the proof that doesn't require a notary on whether or not you met that person or not.
The signature doesn't even exist anymore, does it? Like when are you asked to sign your name? Nobody writes checks. I mean, the signature is dead.
I've signed 500 coloring books in the last week.
Put it on the poll
That's the
at Le
point.
Batard Show. Is the signature dead? LeBatardAF.com, 500 coloring books signed by everybody that is here. Dominique, good seeing you. Always good seeing you, sir. Thank you for the time.
No, it was great. Thanks for having me. Also, Greg, nice shirt.
Thank you.
I know what that means tonight. Baby.
Baby!
Really? Is that what it means?
I love a compliment because Dominique's sartorial eloquence is second to none.
Sartorial eloquence?
That's right.
Sartorial eloquence.
You
That-
got
Means
that
I dress
right.
nice, right? That's what
Those
you're
two
saying?
things
right.
don't go together.
They do.
No,
Yeah.
Elegance, you mean.
No, I mean eloquence. Yeah, look it up.
Yeah. Why are you trying
I
to dumb
dress,
him down?
I dress
What
like
he
I
said
talk good.
off the top of the dome, too.
Greg, he does it to me all the time. Don't worry.
Well, what is that's not correct? Sartorial eloquence is not correct. It's not.
It is correct.
It is not a correct thing to say.
All right,
What-
look up the word eloquence.
Eloquence is to be grand in speech. It's to be. It's in speech.
Hey,
Run your-
my clothes talk. That's it. My
Exactly.
clothes look so nice that they say something to you.
Thank you.
This damn hoodie is telling a story.
Damn right
Thank
it
you,
is.
Greg.
Damn right it is.
Jeez.
The story
Speaking
is
loudly.
he's rich. That's the story.
Thank you, guys. That is the story it tells. Thank you,
story.
Dominique. Good talking to you. Finally, we can get to what it is that Lucy wanted to talk about, and it's long overdue because this game that Miami played against Georgia Tech is Miami losing exactly the way that you imagined they would lose, outcoached in a way play that was bothersome when Georgia Tech doesn't actually have a quarterback. They're telling you which play they're going to run by, who it is they're playing, and they still run the ball. They convert easily on 3rd and 18s. They finish the game by running a sweep because you can't stop anybody. And the thing that they did that no one's been able to do, they took the team that is best in the country on 3rd down offensively and totally neutralized them on 3rd and 4th down, ended Cam Ward's Heisman run. Over, because he's not going to have the signature wins that he needs. He might get to the ceremony, but he's not going to be able to beat the teams. You're saying no, Lucy?
No, I think Cam Ward still has a very good chance of winning
totally
the Heisman.
agree.
I think you have to put Travis Hunter and Ashton Genty in the conversation as well, but like Ashton Genty plays for Boise State, and Travis Hunter doesn't really seem to have the juice that he had at the beginning of the season. I would still say that Cam Ward is the Heisman
What are the
favorite.
signature wins? He's not going to be able to have a signature win.
Georgia Tech was never going to be a signature win.
The
though.
California win? No, he needed to go unbeaten. I felt like he needed to go unbeaten during the regular season and have some moments.
I mean, if that's the case, then just potentially give it to Dylan Gabriel. I think he's got an ACC championship opportunity that would punch Miami's ticket to the CFP were he to win it, and I think ballots are due 2 days after that, so I think that that's probably going to be the barometer that most people grade him against. He can't afford another loss. There goes Miami's margin for error, but I think he's at plus 800 right now. These things, they ebb and flow. I think 3 weeks from now, he'll be right back in the conversation.
Syracuse and Wake Forest aren't going to give you the ability to have whatever it is that's needed. He's going to put up a couple of 4-touchdown games against.
All right, so that's good.
No, he's going to be statistically, he's going to have the best stats. But I remember how stubborn everyone last year was on Jaden Daniels. Like, they ended up being in a position at the end of last year where they couldn't ignore the stats because he was doing 10 yards at a time. But he had a number of games where you were remembering him be overwhelming against. Like you just
against like middling SEC people, because like sometimes he would get hurt against it. Like his marquee Heisman moments never really came on the most watched games last year, and he ended up winning that Heisman pretty easily. I think there's so much golf left in terms of the Heisman that you want to be hyperbolic and react. That was also my initial reaction. It's like he probably lost the Heisman, and then I realized no, this is pretty much where exactly a Heisman winner may want to be at this point in the season.
Who would you pick to win the Heisman right now, Dan?
No, it's a good question because I think that I'd put at the top of anything that we're doing. I'm putting at the top the undefeated team that Oregon is at the top, and I'm going to reward the winning quarterback for winning is what I'm going to do.
That's not what that award is, though.
I think anybody that watches college football this year understands kind of what Dylan Gabriel is. He'll execute that offense, but in terms of individual spectacularness. I'm
arguing that in the absence of Heisman moments in big games, the way that the voters traditionally do this, when you say, Lucy, you tell me if I have this wrong, but any Miami quarterback that's ever won has only won because at the end of the season they're the winner. It's not because they're the statistically best.
I would just say that, like, if you look at what Cam Ward means to this Miami team, and not just in the sense that, like, he's kind of the Band-Aid that has fixed all of their problems for this season. Like, he has far and away been one of the best players in college football, if not the best this season, where if you're going sort of with the, okay, I'm going to choose the quarterback from the undefeated team, I do think Dylan Gabriel is very good, should be in the conversation. He's broken like 1,010,000 college football records because he's been playing so long. But, like, with the exception of that, like, that Ohio State game is probably his moment, but outside of that, there's not like one singular thing that I'm like, yes, Dylan Gabriel earned the Heisman.
But in the absence of the singular thing, they tend to go to who's the best player on the team that went unbeaten. That tends to be the thing that happens.
Yeah, but that didn't happen last year, you know? I would just say that, like, I don't know if you're giving Cam Ward enough credit because not only, I know that Miami
It's
did
not
lose.
giving voters credit. It has nothing to do with Cam Ward. My vote will go to him. It has nothing to do with Cam Ward.
Well, then, yeah, you voted for him. You're helping him out. Good job, Dan.
You're lamenting a lack of moments. Who's had the Heisman moments? Jalen Milroe had a Heisman moment against Georgia. Ashton Genty performed admirably against Oregon on
saying
Peacock,
I'm saying in the absence of Heisman moments, I have seen traditionally this award goes to whoever it is the best player on the team that wins the most.
I think Virginia Tech and Cal, those are Heisman moments. Those are moments in which everybody that would be voting and interested in this race are watching and are made well aware of.
I also feel like there's just more conversation happening about Cam Ward. I think if you look at sort of the national Heisman conversation, we're talking about Cam Ward more than we're talking about Dylan Gabriel, which I think makes a difference. It doesn't help Oregon that they're playing a lot of their games really late at night. They're playing it on Peacock. They're playing it in places where people can't see. And Cam Ward and this Miami team it's really in the national conversation, which I genuinely think helps his case quite a bit.
I think we're talking about Cam Ward because he took a 7-6 team that lost to Rutgers in a pissant bowl game, and he almost single-handedly has made them what they are. Signature moments, leading three second-half 10-point deficit comebacks, all for victories before
the California
before
game that happened late at night. And I will just tell you that while it is that Georgia Tech was good on 3rd and 4th down, that's the worst game I've seen him play this year.
Yeah.
His throws were off in a way that they normally aren't. And it's the game everyone was watching, because now you were watching Miami to lose. And again, I'm not making the argument against Cam Ward for myself as a voter. I've just got a history with these people who do the voting on this thing. They're not naturally inclined to vote for the Miami guy when I start doing the national stuff. And these statistics are great, but in a big spot where winning is the measurement at that position, they lost one and they were a double-digit favorite. And in that game, he was not good on 3rd and 4th down.
No, he wasn't.
And they're the best team in the country on 3rd and 4th down.
They used to be, yeah.
You guys do not respect Ashton Genty enough. That's all I have to say about that.
I would just ultimately dare the voters to vote for a running back from Boise.
Yeah,
he's having an insane statistic. He's averaging like 8 yards per carry against stacked boxes.
He's incredible.
He is so good, and he ran all over Oregon. By the way, the team that's everyone says was okay. They're probably the best team. They're probably the most dominant team. He had like 3 touchdowns and 200 yards against them earlier this season, and they lost by 3 points.
He's unreal. But I think if the voters face themselves with a Cam Ward that is leading a conference champion, CFP appearing Miami Hurricanes brand that finally wins an ACC championship at the end of the season, I think that's just too much. That the position's too valued, and I would essentially dare the voters to vote for a Boise State running back. At that point.
I can't tell you how frustrated I was watching a Miami season die at the feet of Vandenberg recovers your fumble.
It didn't die, Dan.
Recovers your fumble.
Season's not dead. I mean, I would say any hopes and aspirations that maybe this defense can improve.
I'm not saying the season's dead because they can't win the rest of their games and then end up in a playoff. That team is too flawed defensively to beat a good offensive team in a playoff game when you need Cam Ward to be perfect. They're not gonna run through the playoffs as that team when they can't run easily through Virginia Tech, California, and Georgia Tech.
I would agree that the defensive performance, I think their defensive metrics, because a lot of Miami fans were trying to rationalize the defense, say they wouldn't be the first average defense to win a national title.
Bad defense.
They're ranked like 65th in FEI plus right now.
I would say up until like 2 weeks ago, they were like people were putting up what LSU did in 2019, and I think contextually you had to add that LSU team ran into really stiff competition. Miami's given up 300 yards to Malik Murphy. Miami got just trounced on the ground to a team that was essentially playing 3 plays and telling you whenever they were going to be in an obvious passing situation.
And then converting those obvious passing situations with a freshman quarterback who's the only one they had who wasn't injured and can throw a football. Like what you just lost to and the way you just lost to them, to me, was crippling in a way that's exposing.
It is exposing in that you couldn't even have your players in position. Everyone knew where those plays were going except for Miami's defensive coordinators, who were stunting players at the defensive line and allowing quarterbacks to easily break contain. I think contextually, in a vacuum, if I tell you it's 28 points against Georgia Tech, you got to do better than that. But you're also omitting the fact that Georgia Tech should have had 35. They did the smart play at the end of the game, and also how effective that offensive game plan was. David Lake of Inside the U said that Georgia Tech essentially had to thread the needle. This was their only path to victory. And they killed it. They would always get 9 yards on first down to make sure they could bleed out an extra 2 minutes out there. I'd say what happened to Miami's defense is beyond troubling in that you don't really see a path to them just being below average. When the offense that you're playing is that limited and you still throw up a stinker like that, you're probably not going to do any substantial winning. That being said, everything's still out there for Miami. They control their own destiny, and they'd be favored to make the college football playoff inside their own conference.
Before Saturday, that was another reason why Cam Ward was and is such a great Heisman candidate, is that the reason they were 9-0 is that Cam Ward was outscoring the other team and his own defensive shortcomings, winning high-scoring games, winning comeback games. He failed Saturday, and I agree, he didn't have a very good game, but here's how good Cam Ward is. He throws for 340 yards and 3 touchdowns when he's not having a really good game. I'm not sure how much his Heisman candidacy was hurt Saturday.
Can you imagine if he completes that pass to Jacoby George that was there for him? I think Cam Ward is so tied up with Miami's success. You can't break yourself of it, the exciting way that he plays. But I also think he creates a lot of problems that aren't necessarily going to be there if you have someone that's in the pocket that's getting rid of the ball in under 2.5 seconds. But this is where Miami is right now. They live and die by that, and if they're going to concede 9-minute drives to the other team, they need to be efficient, and they're the best short yardage team in the nation, and they failed miserably on 3rd and shorts. That 4th and 1 call where they decide to get cute and throw Mark Fletcher into the flats, and he's not even prepared for a pass. Just what are we doing? We're not going to have that many drives. They're cutting our drives in half here. Let's get the first down. No one's been able to stop Miami on 4th and short at all this season. So an automatic 3 yards. Miami got cute. They had fewer chances. Their margin of error shrank, and Georgia Tech threads the needle. That's a loss that hopefully wakes Miami up, and it happens at the right time. But when it comes to the defense, I can understand completely why you talk yourself into this team's not winning anything.
Yeah, I think just to go back to your point about 2019 LSU, on FEI, they were ranked 11th on defense. Obviously, the number 1 offense in the country right now. Miami's 65th on defense, and that's opponent-adjusted efficiency data from BCF Toys. So that is a very large gulf between not having like the best defense and still winning a championship, and having a really
if you remember that LSU defense, they turned it around later in the year. But if you look at the marquee players, everyone can name what they had at wide receiver. Defensively, who's the best player from that LSU team? Stingley. So they figured it out at a certain point in the season, and I'm looking for individual players to rise up on Miami. And I don't see it. They're not even positionally where they need to be.
Let me stop you for a second on wake-up calls, okay? The way that Miami lost, because I want to be clear about this, and this isn't about wake-up call, it's not about learning, okay? Your coach 3 times decided and failed all 3 times to go for it on 4th down. I'd trust my offense like that on 2 of those 3 times. I would not on the 3rd time. I would have taken the points, but I understood what he was doing on each one, and I believe in the idea of arrogantly going down with my best player firing away. But the way that your coach got smoked by a game plan, the 2-quarterback thing doesn't work. When one of them's hurt and he's the one starting and he can't throw because he's hurt, and the other one, when he's in the game, is throwing, and you know it, and you're still giving up not just conversions on 3rd and 18, easy conversions on 3rd and 18. At the end of the game, you need to stop, and it's just hand the ball. Everyone knows you're handing it off. Just right around the corner. No problem. Easy. All of it. Easy against your defense. Cam Ward's not excellent enough, even if he's the best player in the country, to overcome the defense and the coaching shortcomings that make it so that Cam Ward has to be better than everyone on the other side and better than everyone on his side. And he was asked to do it on Saturday and could not. Had the game on 3rds and 4th downs, could not convert the things that he needed to convert to be better than everyone who was playing in the game. Everyone who was involved in the game, because to lose to that Georgia Tech team, it's not just that it's a 5-4 team. It's not just that it was a double-digit underdog. That quarterback system doesn't beat anybody in a meaningful game.
No, they're telling you exactly what they're going to do. They're telegraphing what they're doing, and you can't stop it. I think that makes the defensive performance all the worse. I think you're right to light up the coaching. I think you're right to light up the defense. I actually think you're letting Cam Ward off easy, because the reason why he couldn't do things is because they were dropping 8 the entire time. And much like Patrick Mahomes initially when he first saw it, he couldn't take his eyes off the explosive play. Now, they came within a half second of finding a wide-open Jacoby George in the middle of the field that essentially would have won them the game. And it was born out of Cam Ward holding the ball too long. But also Cam Ward had so much underneath that entire game and refused to take
Mike,
it.
that quarterback situation that you have never loses that game to that other quarterback situation. Never.
Actually, no, I would push back on that. That's how this head coach would do it. That's how Brent Key enters a game as a major underdog.
Mario hates him, by the way.
Because he's being owned by him. Because how would you say the game
Not
plan?
just because of that, because he
O-line
took his
coach on
job.
O-line coach crime.
Because he came and took his job at Alabama too. Took his job.
No, he's a great coach, and he knew exactly what kind of game plan he needed to execute. It was a perfectly executed game plan. They kept Miami's offense off the field. That limited the amounts of times that Cam Ward could get hot and take advantage of their shortcomings defensively. It was just a great game plan, and hopefully it's a loss that Miami can learn from, and it comes right at the right time. Everything's still there for Miami, but it would appear that this would be one of the worst defenses in the last 15 years for Miami.
You can't win a championship playing defense like that. It's not. You can't have not even the Joe Burrow team. It's not possible.
I'd say in a vacuum, if you can hold your opposing defenses, and keep in mind, like the challenges that they're going to run into in the CFP, those are teams that are not going to. They're going to look at Miami's tape and still decide we're going to do what we do, because we're going to stick to our identity, because this defense isn't going to stop us. They're not going in. Oregon's not going into a game that says, you know what, let's have a 9-minute drive and keep Cam Ward off the field. So stylistically, I actually think it'll work out for Miami in the future, but they need to learn from this. Their next opponent does more misdirection and jet sweeps than just about anybody in the country. They need to fix that.
And it was backbreaking too on that 3rd and 18 when okay, the quarterback that they have can't throw. He's hurt. They've been hurt all game. And then a wide open freshman guy just runs for 18 yards. And I don't know, I think it was Mish Powell, who's looking the opposite way as guys are running past him, and he's like going to a spot that nobody's there.
I have no idea where that breakdown was. One of them was in man, one of them was in zone. You had a true freshman and a seasoned veteran there. They got to clean it up. Thankfully, they have a bye week to clean it up. I still think that this offense, you'll be in any game. You'll be in any game in that CFP. There isn't a dominant team. There isn't a team that I look at on Saturday as I'm like, man, Miami can't make that interesting, even with as bad as their defense is. If you go in and you just mitigate the damage on defense and you hold teams to under 28, Cam Ward gives you a shot.
I disagree. I think any good offense in that sport smokes you. Like, that smokes that defense because it's 5 yards a carry. That's Georgia Tech when you know the plays they're running. They're going 5 yards a carry. They're just mauling. They're telling you what's coming. I can't imagine Mario Cristobal can feel worse losing to that coach that way, where you've got the better quarterback.
Maybe last year he could. Last year provided an example where he could feel worse.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. But the stakes were larger this year than they are last year.
They've played good offenses. Pretty much every offense is good against their defense, and they've been able to survive. They played with fire. There was still a path to steal that game, despite Georgia Tech playing their game plan perfectly, and it caught Miami. Hopefully, it can catch Miami at the right time, and they can learn from it, because I do think we've bottomed out as a defense. I don't think that there's a other lower point beyond this. So do what you can with it and mitigate the damage, play safer, and trust your offense. That's your identity.
What are you doing with learning, though? Like, he's going to throw underneath all of a sudden? Like,
I think
the whole
Miami,
game plan wasn't even to run the ball. It's just, Cam, bail us out.
I think
Cam, keep bailing us out. You're better than everybody.
Well, he failed to. I think he's not above criticism. I think he'd be hard on his own performance there. Despite looking at the box score, it was pretty good. But I think defensively, they're still way too aggressive. There are things that they can do with personnel. There are things that they can do to play a more complementary style. And like I said, mitigate this damage. Positionally, have guys, you know that if a wide receiver goes out wide and Kiko follows him, that's bad. Kiko needs to stay within the hash marks because he's not being effectively blitzed anymore. The book is out on Miami, and I think the most disappointing part of that performance was Miami has the book that everybody else has, and they're getting worse with it.
I wrote a poem about the Cowboys.
Sunshine in My Eyes?
It's
a love song?
That's what inspired it.
It's a song.
Ooh, it's beautiful behind you. It's good. I like what they did there.
Good. Let's see what we have. A poem, not a song. A poem.
It's a poem. Sunlight in your eye. C.D. Lamb asks why. Cowboy fans cry. To Mike McCarthy, we say bye. That's it.
Beautiful.
It is. Thank you.
So nice.
Thank you. It was
Really
it was warm.
You are your father's son.
That is
a
really,
wordsmith.
really lovely.
Who would be favored if Mississippi played Miami?
What? Who do you
Mississippi
think?
Depends on where.
I think that's a great game. It's a great game. It's wide open this year. There isn't a single team that I watch that say, man, they're going to just run through this in the CFP. I think Miami presents problems to other teams, and I think certainly teams like Oregon and Ohio State, they have every right to be feeling themselves this year. But it's wide open. This is actual parity in the NCAA. I think we'd be fine to react week to week and just say, let's enjoy this ride, see where it takes us, because we don't have data points to pull. When it comes to this sport, we don't have previous experience with a season this wide open.
That's true. There is, however, not another team in the top 30 right now with the defense that is ranked as low as Miami's.
They got to fix it. The
I don't
defense
think
that we
there
saw
is
on Saturday
fixing
is
it.
not.
I don't. But I think what you're doing there, they got to learn. Wake up call. They got to fix it. No, they're not good enough. And it's okay. The way that they're going to win is Cam's got to bail them out.
Guys,
right.
I mean, Oregon had major issues across their offensive line the first month of this season, and they figured it out. Teams can figure these things out. Yes, I agree. Damning numbers right now. They're not going to win anything. They might not beat Wake in 2 weeks if they trot out that very same defense.
They're going to beat Wake. And they're going to beat Syracuse. And they'll probably win the ACC championship game.
And they can just
they
can just as easily lose to Syracuse the way they just lost to Georgia Tech.
They won't, though.
Well, you say that, but you said it before Georgia Tech, too, and I've been telling people, this team on the road, don't trust them against anybody. Saw them down 35-10 against California, and just saw them lose. This team on the road, don't trust them against anybody because you can't trust that defense. Why would you trust that defense?
There was no question that Georgia Tech was going to be their toughest game of the three left. Their defense has been bad all season.
Road games are hard, man. They're hard. You can't go into a stadium with no defense and just expect to win a road game.
They did at Cal. I mean, they've done it.
They were
this year.
down 25 points.
I understand, and they
Winning is
won.
hard. Everybody that you have a pretty strong opinion on, they're going to lay some eggs. There's losses on everybody's schedule. Everybody that is awaiting the CFP rankings, that feels good about themselves right now and has vibes running high, they're going to come down crashing back to earth. It is a wide open year. There isn't going to be a perfect team. There's going to be a flawed team that wins this championship.
I think the thing is, too, is this is not the first time this sort of game has happened. Miami has just been able to win. They've been down at half at so many of their games so far. Miami's been playing with their food all year long, so this just wasn't that shocking to me. If they lost to Syracuse, it wouldn't be shocking to me. Wake Forest, that would be shocking to me.
But they can have 4 losses, and it's not the same way that the Chiefs were 9-0. There could be 4 losses on the Miami schedule. Usually you don't have on a championship team a unit that's bad.
Dan, they're progressing exactly where they need to be. Mario Cristobal, year
I don't
3.
disagree with that at all.
Year 1, lose by a lot. Year 2, lose by little. Year 3, win by little. Year 4, win by a lot.
But, Mike, it's the bandage that Colorado and Miami have. It's not a long-term fix if your solution is I need to have the best quarterback be better than everyone else
that's where you
on
and I
both
disagree.
sidelines.
I actually don't think – I think their identity is what it is. It's fully tied up in Cam Ward. I also think you don't have a lot of these same issues if Emory Williams is just executing an offense, getting rid of the ball. It's not going to be nearly as sexy, but I think Miami's well-positioned to keep this going. This is not a Florida State thing where the bottom falls out.
I think it's important to look at a team like Ole Miss. I know you kind of brought them up earlier. Beating Georgia this weekend is because they made crazy moves, especially defensively in the portal. So it kind of all depends on the offseason. It's hard to really predict anybody going forward with players just going left and right everywhere different. Ole Miss was able to use the portal so effectively and almost completely fix their defense.
Home really got lost in the shuffle there, huh?
Greg Cody, who is afflicted with something that has made more and more of an appearance around here over the last couple of years, doing his best show off air, talking to me when we go off air instead of on air. What were you just saying to me?
Well, based on the overreaction I heard from you in the last segment, I suggested that the headline for the last segment would be 9-0 team loses game, comma, head coach Mario Cristobal sucks. That was the headline. Okay, because at 9-0, people were like, you know what? He's a good recruiter. He won the portal by getting Cam Ward. Pretty good coach. Huge improvement. He loses one game, and we're focusing on it. He went for fourth down too much. They should have guessed that was a pass coming.
All of these things can be true, including that headline that you just gave us was too long. What I'm telling you about that particular game, Greg Cody, is rare as the example that I can give you that is more obvious of a situation that you're getting outcoached. When you have those two quarterback situations, and what happens with the game planning of the game is not only do they run the ball at 5 yards a clip, they do the most effective thing, which is keep Cam Ward out of the game because they're holding the ball the entire time because your coach has no answers defensively for the one place they have as strength, which is an offense that's super limited on a 5-4 team that's telegraphing everything, and still they're doing the dual thing of scoring on your defense and keeping your best player off the field, limiting his possession time. Like, you can't, rare is the example of something happens that obvious where you're like, you've got the better quarterback and you can't get him on the field because they can run the ball.
It's literally happened every big upset with undefeated teams. That's how you do it in college football. You control the ball and you keep the great offense that scores at a great clip and you give them fewer opportunities. They perfectly executed their game plan down to getting 9 yards on first down carries as opposed to 10. They were just perfect. There was still a path to victory. And Miami's offense, you could hold them accountable and say they actually dropped the ball. It was a bad day for the defense and the offense to essentially together put their worst performance of the season. It happens. Winning is hard. This season has proven that winning is hard week in and week out. Hopefully they can learn from it and improve.
And the running game, the run defense by Miami, I don't have the stats in front of me. If I'm wrong, correct me. The run defense has been average, but not terrible this year.
It was 5 yards a carry on Saturday.
I'm talking about going into that game. That was an anomaly, giving up 270 yards rushing. The run I think the pass defense has been worse than the run defense for Miami. But the point is the defense has been bad all year, and Cam Ward has been outscoring his own defense and the other team all year.
I can't do this anymore. If Mike Ryan's going to give me press conference of hopefully we learn from it. Let me switch topics here because I need to get to off-roading, which should be off-roading, right? It should be off-roading.
Off-roading.
Miami's run defense factors in somewhere around like 70th right now, just to tie a knot on that. But
Thank you.
But going into that, before
For the
giving up
season.
271, it was probably more like 40th or 50th, I'm guessing.
Okay, important guess that you
That's
make.
bad,
It's
too.
still pretty terrible. Off-roading.
That's average, not terrible.
It's pretty terrible. Off-roading, off-roading. It's coming in a second. But I'm scared to do something that I want to do. And I'm just not brave enough to do it. I don't know if all of you have seen what Jokic's last 9 games have been, but it's all ridiculous. Like, it's just asinine that the man is not playing, he keeps improving, statistically keeps improving. And the thing I'm scared to say is that he's the best basketball player ever. Like, I'm scared to put him ahead of LeBron and Michael Jordan, but this 5-year stretch, there's just nothing like it. And he's 29. Like, he's just going to win all the MVP awards because he's somehow getting better, plays all the games, and is just statistically across the board, assists, rebounds, points, efficiencies. Like, there's just never been anything like this.
It's too inflammatory to say he's the greatest ever because that's a conversation that is just reserved for a party of two right now. And it's such a it's such a movement behind both those players that it's a losing argument. But what I would say is I couch it usually by saying he's the most unstoppable player I've ever seen. He's just the most dominant.
No, but
There's nothing that you can do that can really bother him. And even if you take away one aspect of his game, he'll excel at the other ones to the point that you stop doing that. He's just unstoppable.
Basketball can't be played any better than he's playing it. No one has ever played it better than he is playing basketball, because it's not just the statistical production, it's the efficiency of it. Like, even Michael Jordan, when he'd score double digits, occasionally would have a 12-point game. Like, occasionally there would be something in there that was 4 for 19.
There would be more games in which Michael Jordan went up against a defense and the defense would feel like, yeah, we did a good job on him. That feeling is fewer and further between when a defense lines up against Jokic. It's
Lucy,
just impossible to stop.
What is the name of this segment? Your last name is Rodin.
It is. I'm glad you know it.
This segment is not called Off Rodin.
It's off-roading. Roading. It's a play because, on the road, like it kind of sounds like my last name.
Yeah, off-roading.
I thought it was clever. I didn't come up with it. My friend Haley did.
How do you feel about this week's edition of Off Rodin?
I actually feel really good about this one. Obviously, the game was terrible, but LSU fans are straight up a different breed. They are some of the funniest, most interesting people we have ever talked to. It is such a great atmosphere. I'm so sad the game sucked because I didn't really get to experience like Death Valley during a great game, but we had a blast. I would love to go back to Baton Rouge.
Did it smell like whiskey at the 50-yard line, like they say, night games in Baton Rouge?
I think the rain sort of washed that away. I will say I have never been to a school where I've seen them smoke more cigarettes than at LSU. Like cigs everywhere.
Milroe had, 12 carries for 185 yards? That's pretty good.
It was like 8 million yards. It was after the second Alabama drive in the first quarter that I was like, yeah, this is cooked. We're done. Well, we could go if we wanted, but we stayed the whole time.
Wow.
That's my Heisman Trophy vote.
I mean, 12 carries, 185 yards. On top of that, though, it was a night game at LSU. It's supposed to be hard to play at night there. They violated all sorts of animal rights stuff by bringing a tiger across state lines. Yeah, you should be furious, Jessica. Everybody should be furious at doing that to a tiger.
It was so depressing to watch. I am excited to ask Ron McGill about it tomorrow because it truly made me so sad to see that tiger in that cage while everyone was booing it.
Yeah, but if they would have won, though, it would have been electric.
No one wanted the tiger there. It was just overall bad.
You'll see it in our videos a little bit, and absolutely no one was happy. And it was like 50% of the fans were like, hey, I think it's really messed up to have a tiger on the field during a football game. Like, that's wrong. And the other 50% were like, that should be our tiger on the field during this football game, not the other one.
The thing that I remember about when the University of Miami was at its greatest powers is when they went to LSU and they won at night like 44-3. And in that game, I saw an LSU receiver chased down by a Miami defensive tackle, Shane Curry. And outside the locker room before the game, they put the sedated tiger in a cage right outside Miami's locker room. And the Miami players came out and were putting their hands in the cage and stuff, like taunting the tiger.
My dad told me that same story when we were
they
watching the game on Saturday night. He's like, once upon a time, I was like, the good old days.
They were taunting the tiger, and then it got ruined. I was so excited to see a game there, and then it was rainy, and they were all miserable, and it was 44-3 or 45-3 or something ridiculous, and the whole thing gets ruined.
On Friday, I went to just see Mike's enclosure. So the tiger that was at the game was Omar. That's different than Mike. But I went to see Mike's enclosure, and I was like, I posted something about, like, I don't really agree with this. And a lot of people were like, that tiger lives like a king. That tiger has the best life in the entire world. But when I was standing at Mike's, like, little enclosure, this family came up next to me, and I was eavesdropping on their conversation, as I always am. And I just heard him go, you remember when Meemaw poked Mike with the stick? You remember that? And I was like, I don't think this tiger lives like a king. I don't think so.
And while smoking heaters, while everyone's that tiger had to be miserable. That's an unhappy. Like, come on, that can't be pleasant.
It's really, really sad. Mike was just pacing back and forth in the enclosure the whole time, and he doesn't really come out during game days because it's too overwhelming for him. The tiger that they brought in. They only had on the field for a little bit. He wasn't out there very long. I don't know if it was rain related or what, but it was. And all the fans booed the tiger, by the way. They were so unhappy. Not one single person, except for the governor of Louisiana, wanted this tiger at that game.
Everyone booed the tiger. They also like rolled him out and just floodlights on him while like 90,000 people are screaming. The whole thing, I
Terrifying.
really, I hate to be this guy, but like it really did upset me for the tiger. I just finished watching that chimp documentary on HBO also about the people that have the chimps as pets. And like, these are wild animals. And the cage was so thick that you could barely even see the tiger through it too. And he was probably so scared.
Bit of a liability issue, I suspect, to have a tiger. Anyway, on that note, PETA's involved. There's protesting. State lines were crossed, and there were all sorts of animal cruelty violations. Let's go off-roading.
Ever since I was a young girl, I had one dream in this life. It wasn't to get married. It wasn't to be a princess or some shit. I don't know what young girls dream of. I wanted to go to Death Valley. I wanted a night game in Baton Rouge, and my dream is coming true. This place rules so hard. This is the top of my college football bucket list, but no one will tell me what STTDB means. I just want to know. I feel left out.
Suck the tiger dick, bitch!
It's so hot and it's November. This is really bad for all of us as a society. How would you just describe the LSU tailgating scene?
People get a little out of hand and like kick the shins. I heard an 8-year-old kicked an adult in the shins, and I was like, it's a little bit ridiculous. But I think it's cool, but I think people get out of hand, especially out-of-state people. Sorry, but like, get a grip.
Who's the worst fan base you've dealt with?
Yeah, Tennessee band. They were behind me in my rear, and I was standing there, and they were blowing their horns, and I flipped them all off hard, and I was like, you guys are ridiculous. Get out of here with that gaudy orange. I'll never wear that gaudy orange, purple and gold. Even though it's not my color palette, I still like to participate, so I wear neutral.
I'm not going to crap on anybody. Well, you know what I think? Let me think about it. Ole Miss fans are kind of dicks.
We're kind of depressed because we felt like Brian Kelly was going to bring us a dynasty, and now we're not sure. So we're trying to understand why that's not happening.
How do you guys feel honestly about Brian Kelly?
Who? He looks like a great guy. He looks like your best friend's dad. I think he's doing okay. How's Brian Kelly doing? Like, I'm kind of just there for the vibe. Brian Kelly's doing good.
Is Brian Kelly cool enough to be the head coach at LSU?
I mean, this is swag you, right?
The least swaggy person of all time.
I don't know. Brian's swag could be tonight. This could be.
Winning this game tonight is swag.
You talk about legacy games? This could be swag game loading tonight in Death Valley. Yeah, he's getting cooler because he's starting to embrace the culture. This is the culture shock coming to this part of the world. We eat more, we drink more, we party more. The atmosphere here is just different.
What was your immediate reaction when you heard that Nick Saban was retiring?
When he retired, we're like, whoo, oh, thank God. Tired of that man whipping our ass.
Nick Saban's 60. Like,
Okay, so here's the situation happening at LSU today. For those of you who don't know, LSU has a live tiger on campus. His name is Mike. He's a full-ass live Bengal tiger that lives in a facility right across from the football stadium where people can go take pictures of him, whatever. Morally, I don't agree with that, but that's not the point of this right now. So Mike used to go into the games, and he would be in a cage on the field sitting behind the visitors' bench, which is crazy, but they stopped doing it because it's 100,000 people. It's really loud. It's probably pretty dangerous. There's some state government official here who's like, this is what's the most important issue in our country right now is the fact that there's not a tiger on the field. But it can't be Mike anymore because they decided that Mike wasn't going to be the tiger on the field. So they outsourced it and they went and got a tiger from Florida, naturally, who's coming to this game to be on the field, but it's not Mike. And people are super pissed about it. How do you feel about them bringing in a tiger that's not Mike to be on?
No. So now we got a stunt double, you know? Some cat from Florida. That makes no sense.
Makes no sense. They're bringing in Omar from Florida. Like, what? But I think if they were to mess with Mike's mental state, he wouldn't be able to fight like he does.
So we had to go in the transfer portal to get a tiger. That's how that works? We got a transfer portal tiger while we had a homegrown tiger. So you're adding to the talent pool is really how I see it. I think what we did is we saw an asset out there in the open market. Brian Kelly, do we want to call him Swagoo now, or is Booger already got that? Swagoo Jr., Swagoo Part 2. I think he went out in the transfer portal. He did some recruiting. He brought in this transfer portal tiger, and I think it might be the key.
That is Mike. Put it on.
Who the is Dan Le Batard?
Have you ever heard of the Dan Le Batard Show with Stugotz? Yeah. Yeah. Woo! All right. Do it to me again. There we go.
So that might be one of the worst games we've ever been to in the history of off-roading. But at least the weather was really good. So, signing off in Death Valley, I'm Lucy Rodine. Suck that tiger dick, bitch. Loved LSU. Loved it. There was a moment that didn't make the cut that I want to talk about because it's so funny. Those three guys, the one guy in the middle was like, hey, I would really like a job for the Dan Le Batard Show. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. What's your qualifications? He said, well, if you hire me, I'm a redhead. I'd be the show's first gender. I said, oh, we already have one, Chris Cody. He said, that's great that you're bringing in DEI hires.
Can you guys tell me whether you find it funny, interesting, both, neither, that the advent of the shift in that sport with power and money started with Lincoln Riley and Brian Kelly, and both of them have been like, oh my God, you didn't have to give them any money at all. You could have been just fine deciding to go any number of other people. These are not any kinds of groundbreakers. USC is 12-12, I think, in their last 24, and Brian Kelly hadn't done shit.
I think Jimbo's probably the best example of that because they gave him more money than God, and now they're paying him more money than God just to not coach there, which is crazy.
It's a good example. I just don't think of it as the place that the whole thing shifted. I associate like NIL and corporate CEO changing with both being able to buy Oklahoma's coach and being able to buy Notre Dame's coach. Like you're going somewhere else to just buy someone. I didn't think of that the same way with Texas A&M and FSU. Maybe I should have.
Yeah, it's totally
Feels like it's the exact same thing.
Totally Scott Woodward, who was the Texas A&M athletic director that went to LSU, that made the Brian Kelly.
Not hearing you.
Sorry, wrong microphone.
Yeah, I was a little confused.
You were saying?
Same athletic director that hired Jimbo at Texas A&M and LSU, and Brian Kelly at LSU. Like
so
that
you
was
guys
100%.
do this? You guys do this with Fisher more than with Lincoln Riley and Brian Kelly?
That was the most shocking thing. Like he left a national champion side.
I mean, Mel Tucker's contract too was like $95 million, and that really crashed and
So
burned.
what am I doing that I'm associating it with these two guys?
Because that coaching cycle was 2021. That was when a lot of things shifted after Lincoln went to USC. Brian Kelly, I think, right? Like LSU wanted Lincoln Riley, couldn't get him, so they hired Brian Kelly, and then like the whole carousel went in motion. Brent Venables went to Oklahoma. He's now on a massive contract, and their season has been in the toilet. I think you're just thinking of the 2021 coaching cycle because it was crazy. I mean, like that's the year that a lot of things changed, but I think it started before that.
My favorite moment from that coaching cycle was when Lincoln Riley came out and said, I am not taking the job at LSU, and then took the USC job the next morning. It was awesome.
I don't know if you guys saw, getting back to the conversation we were having on Jokic, he was asked the other day in a press conference, he was like, have you had any bad nights this season? And his response was, yeah, the second night, the second game we lost. And the reporter's response was, you had 41.
41-9-4 that game, by the way. It's his worst game. His worst game of the season, Dan, points-wise, is 16 points, but he also tacked on 12 rebounds and 13 assists that day.
Should I do it, Mike? Should I just proclaim him the best basketball player ever? I'm just too scared to do it.
I mean, if you call him the best ever, you already did.
Yeah, you already did.
Just lean in. Go with that take.